What's going on, guys? Your boy Business back here with another card video. Today we have another deck profile, this time some Granblue love. Now originally I wanted to do the Night Rose deck profile after opening all of those Butterfly to Moonlight booster boxes, but I didn't think that the set had enough support for Night Rose to run efficiently without using cards from prior sets. So to stick with the only using cards from the set that I use in the profile, I figured we'd do a 7 Seas deck instead. And this is a nice budget-friendly option, nice casual deck profile that won't cost you all that much money to make, but still runs pretty smoothly. Now, with that said, let's jump right in. And we have our only grade 3, which is the main 7 Seas card, Lord of the 7 Seas Night Mist. Now, what all the 7 Seas cards do, if any of them hit from Vanguard or Rearguard, you get to put a treasure marker on one of your open circles. And then the more treasure markers you get, the more effects you can pull off. So for him, if you have one or more markers on your board, all of your 7 Seas units can attack or intercept from the Rearguard circles. This allows you to get more attacks off and sort of force your opponent by having a ton of attacks. Then if you have 3 or more markers, all of your 7 Seas units get plus 5k. And this helps that because you're attacking from back row a lot, you won't be able to boost. So that 5k comes in handy to have multiple attacks that aren't super weak. And then if you have 6 or more markers, after he attacks, you can stand all of your 7 Seas Rearguards. Obviously, a huge late game push. If you're able to get those 6 markers pretty early, you can attack up to 11 times in the same turn, all with pretty good attack because he boosts them 5k each, and that can force your opponent's hand very well. Now, because you want to have so many grade 2s out that you can attack with and intercept with from the back row, I suggest using the Gift Protect number 2, and that's because you can put them in your back row and then you'll be boosting units that can attack and intercept from here, and that's I would say a lot more consistent and helpful than having, one perfect guard added to your hand, because you'll be able to have a unit there every turn that can 15k guard and has plus 5 power. So it has a little offense and defense. This deck really takes advantage of this effect. On to the grade 2s. We have 4 Pirate Swordsman Columbard. He is a Granblue staple. When he's placed Vanguard or Rearguard, you can counterblast 1, send a unit from your deck to the drop zone, and then call a unit from your drop zone. Super good. Any Granblue deck has to run him at 4. He's just consistent, mills cards, brings them back. That's what you want in Granblue. You want to fill that drop zone and then bring the units back that you need the most. So 4 of, super helpful card. Unfortunately, he's not a 7 Seas, so he doesn't get a lot of the benefits, but you'll be able to load the board with 7 Seas later, and he helps get them out there. Now, next up, we have 7 Seas Pillager Night Spinel, and obviously it has the 7 Seas effect. When it hits a unit, you get to put a treasure marker, but also when it's placed, you can counterblast 1, mill 2 cards from your deck, and then call a 7 Seas unit to a Rearguard. So that's very good. This deck can replenish its Rearguards pretty easily, like most Granblue decks, so the fact that you can mill 2 to fill the drop zone and then pick the best 7 Seas unit at the time to replenish your field is super helpful. And then because you're able to intercept from Rearguard and the back row, you'll be intercepting a lot, and you can just bring them back with this next turn. Very helpful. Next up, our big beater of the deck, 7 Seas Master Swordsman Shade. He's probably the best for this build specifically, only because you're trying to pull off so many attacks and you're not able to boost when you're using the back row. If you have a treasure marker, he gets plus 15k, and that's puts him at base 24k, plus if you have 3, he'll get another 5k to go with it, so he'll be 29, and you're pulling off, if you can get multiples of him out, 29k attacks multiple times that can possibly restand late game. So he's your big beater. You gotta have 4 of him. You'll thank me later. He makes this deck run, and he gives it the power that it needs to get some plays off. That rounds out the grade 2s. We don't have we only have the 12 grade 2s, but they're all super good, and it's probably the strength of this deck is in its grade 2s. Its grade 1s not so much, but they have their uses. So to start us off with the grade 1s, we have Tommy the Ghosty Brothers. They don't exactly go with the niche of this playstyle, but what they do is search out grade 3s, and because we only run the one Night Mist, or 4 copies of Night Mist. Being able to search him out early game if you don't pull him in your opening hand is essential, because you don't want to get great stock. So I run him at 4, and he helps with the consistency. You know, there's times where I don't pull a Night Mist in that opening turn of the first couple, but then I get, you know, Tommy out and he allows me to search for it, which adds to its consistency. It also gets plus 5k if you have 5 or more units in the drop zone, which just gives it a little more utility and boost for, you know, mid to late game. Next up, we have 4 7 Seas Helmsman Nightcrow. Now, what he does is when its attack hits, choose one of your Vanguard or Rearguard without any treasures, but a treasure marker like all 7 Seas. But if he's in the drop zone, you can Soul Blast 1 and retire one of your Rearguards other than the same as Nightcrow, and then call him to that Rearguard spot. Now he's good, especially early game if you need a nice 7 Seas or a, you know, 8k grade 1 boost or beat stick, anything like that. But he's not the best, especially mid to late game, when you'd rather have your grade 2s out than your grade 1. But he does have some utility, and he's not a bad option. Next up, we have 4 Witch Doctor of the 7 Seas Reistuter, and obviously it has the standard when it hits get a marker, but also if there's a marker on its circle, it gains intercept. Now this is super helpful, even, you know, early to mid game. You have a treasure marker out, you can just block this off and, you know, block an attack to not take damage pretty early, which is a 1000 shield, and you know, it then opens that spot up to fill with a grade 2 to be more offensive with later. So she definitely has some uses. You'd rather have grade 2s, but again, doesn't hurt to have her out there either. And since those are 7 Cs, you can start building your treasures early, which definitely counts. Now, next we have 3 Witch Doctor of Powdered Bone Necrobone. And what this does is if it's in the drop zone, you can discard a card from your hand and put this to the bottom of your deck and then call a grade 1 to a Rearguard circle. And then if your drop zone has 10 or more cards, you can call any unit instead. So very good late game. You can fill these into your drop zone, and then if you start to have your Rearguards, you know, wiped out and you don't have anything else, you can just boom, put this to the bottom of the deck, discard a card, and then call any of your units from your drop zone to a Rearguard circle. So definitely a helpful card. Up next, we have 4 7 Seas Apprentice Nightrunner. This actually uses a grade 0, and this card is super good. It just thins through your deck very well. So obviously if it hits, you get a marker, but you won't really be using that because it's only a grade 0 with 5k, so it's pretty weak. But its other effect, on Rearguard Act, you can bind this unit, mill 2, and then add a 7 Seas unit from your drop zone to your hand. So pretty much you're cycling through your deck with this guy. You mill 2, any Granblue deck loves to have cards in its drop zone, and then you get to pick your 7 Seas unit that you'd rather have in your hand. So this really just deck thins, and you gotta run it at 4. It's a very good 0. Then for our trigger lineup, we do 4 crits, Sentinel, 4 regular crits, 4 draws, and 4 heals. Now these are the only triggers that come in the set, so it's pretty much how you have to build it if you only want to use Butterfly to Moonlight cards. But at least this time you do have a Sentinel. The crit is 30k and you don't have to discard. I would probably prefer myself to have the draw Sentinel. That's a perfect card, but it doesn't, you know, it's a preference at that point. It's not bad for the deck. It's not the best in my opinion, but if you're at home and you have the draw perfect cards, I'd suggest those instead, but it's still a good lineup nonetheless. And then we have our standard starter draw card, and if your opponent goes first, you get a quick shield as well. So that is the deck. Let me know what you think down below about it. Any things you would do the same, you would do differently, and what you overall think of the deck profile. Let me know what other decks you'd like to see in the future. And thanks again for coming by. Don't forget to like and subscribe to help support the channel, and I will see you next time.